We're on Uktzim, Perek Bet, Mishnah Yud, the 10th and last Mishnah in the second and penultimate chapter in all of Shas. Getting exciting. So, we talked in last Mishnah, we're going to talk about Atzitz Nakuv and Atzitz She'eino Nakuv. But before we get to that, remember we said that a plant, if you put something in a pot, if you put a seed in a pot, if the pot is Eino Nakuv, as we see, if the pot doesn't have any holes in it, therefore, even though the plant is still growing, it can be Mekabel Tumah. So says the Mishnah, but Klei Glalim, they would make Kelim, they would make pots out of Glalim, out of manure. Or Klei Adamah, they would make it out of earth. They would make earth pots, and before they were fired in a kiln, they would just use them. You know, you can go on YouTube about all kinds of cool videos about people living in the wilderness, and they take the mud, they make clay pots, and before you fire, they would use them. Some they would fire in the kiln, it's a lot of fuel, some they wouldn't. So let's say I have a clay glalim or clay adamah, and I plant in it. Shasharashim yochalim latzeit. If the roots can grow through them, einam machshirin tazvaim. Therefore, if plants are growing in them, then they're not. Even though there are no holes in them, they're not mekabel tumah, and they're not machshir et tazvaim. They can't make the seeds inside of them. The plants that grow in them, they're not mekabel tumah. They're considered mechubar. Okay, they're considered connected to the ground. If the roots can puncture and get into the and puncture through the galal and the excrement, the manure or the adamah, but it also doesn't say klei avanim. Remember that. By the way, it's just important to note klei galalim and klei adamah are not mekabel tumah themselves, but it doesn't say klei avanim, stoneware. The fisha kashimim, they are very, very hard. And the roots can't puncture them. So therefore, these are not machshirat azraim, but klei avanim are. Atzitz nakuv, ain't no machshirat azraim. This is what we said in the last Mishnah. If you have a atzitz, a pot, that's nakuv, nekev is a hole. So a perforated pot, ain't no machshirat azraim. The plants that are in it are considered connected. Lo ba'inan hechsher, mishum dechashive kemechubar. They're considered like as if the plant is mechubar, it's connected to the ground. This is actually huge ramifications for Shemitah. If they want to grow in Shemitah, can't use a plant that would allow connection to the ground. And therefore, in this case, since it's atzitz nakuv, and azraim nechshavim lekabel tumah, okay, the only time the plants are muchshav lekabel tumah, ella except kishabal le'em mayim lachar shenit l'shu. Once they are picked and disconnected from the ground, and they become wet, as we've learned many times. Therefore, then they can become a megabel tumah. Even water in this atzitz nakuv. If you have an atzitz nakuv, it's punctured. If somehow there was a water level that has holes in it, the water is not machshir. Why? Because the water is considered, water, and this is manche ba'aradam. It's like water in a body of water. It's connected to the ground. So if you have this atzitz nakuv and it's in the ground, therefore it's not, the water in it is not mekabel tumah. But she'eino nakuv, if the atzitz is not punctured, not perforated, it's solid, machshir tazvaim, then the plants in it, as we've said before, can be mekabel tumah. Kama shiuro shel nekev, how big does the hole have to be? Kadesh yetze bo shorish katan. It has to be the size that a small root can emerge from it, can get out of it, which is not that big, very small perforation. Next, milahu afar atzvato. If you have a plant and a pot, and you fill it up to the edge with dirt, with afar, with dirt, hareu ki tavla she'en la lizbeis. It's like a tavla. It's like a tavla is a tray she'en la lizbeis that has no lip. An earthenware tray, usually clay, earthenware kalim like this is mekabel tumah because it has what's called a beit kibul. I've got tea in here. But if you have a tray that has no lip, then it's not a beit kibul and it's not mekabel tumah. So therefore, if you fill this pot until its edge, since the dirt comes to the top and sees the air from all four directions, it's like a plant that's nakub that is not perforated. It's considered like it's connected to the ground. Okay, and therefore it's like that tavla she'en la lizbeis. It's like this tray that has no lip, and therefore it's not mekabel tumah. We'll stop here. Dedicate our learning to memory of my father, Rav Simcha ben Yitzchak Kalman. Make it a great day.